Hey there, this is David from Openfort, and after doing some integrations with the main game backend services like PlayFab or Firebase, this is the time for Unity gaming services. Unity has put a lot of effort into it, and it really feels very good to use. It also enables us to use C# in the cloud code. So in this video, we're going to be deploying some C# cloud code modules with Openfort key functions in it. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. So as always, to start, let's see the result of this integration. I'm here in Unity, and I'm going to hit play. And we're going to click on sign in. We just logged in using authentication, Unity authentication service. We created a new Openfort player, and we checked the NFT inventory, which of course the player has no NFTs yet. And already we can go to Openfort dashboard, and we'll see that a new player is created, still inactive, but with a Mumbai account. And if we go to Unity Cloud dashboard, we see also that we have the cloud code modules that we're going to be deploying. And if we go to player management, we have a new player. And under Cloud Save, we saved all the Openfort information. In this case, you see that it's this ID. And if I go to Openfort dashboard, I see that this is the ID. So going back to Unity, we can try to mint this. And we're going to be waiting a little while for this. Always the minting transaction takes a while. This is a timeout, but no problem, because we're waiting for a push message, which is a functionality of Unity gaming services. And we got the transaction ID, and we get the NFT inventory afterwards. And this is the representation of it. So in real time, we can go to Openfort, refresh this. We'll see that the account is active, and we have the mint transaction successful. And you see all this frictionlessly, and we can go ahead and see how we did all this. All right, so here we are in our repository, and as always, we have a short overview explaining the structure of this sample and also what parts of the Unity gaming services we're using. And in this paragraph right here, we go through the workflow of the application. So we're going to go deeper into this later, but also make sure you go through the prerequisites. And as always, to start, we need to set up our Openfort dashboard. So go to dashboard Openfort, and I already have the contract and the gas policy added. But if you don't, well, also make sure you create a new project right here. But if you don't have a contract and the policy created, you can go here and copy, for example, the contract address. It's on Mumbai, and you're going to go here, paste it, select Mumbai, and paste the address here. You don't need to add the API, and you could add the contract. And for the gas policy, you would add a policy, add a name, select Mumbai right here, pay gas for user. This is what we want to do. We want to sponsor the gas fees for the user, and this will automatically be set up. So we're going to sponsor the contract functions for the contract that we just added, and all the functions is okay, and we would just save the policy. So in the end, you need to have a policy like this and the contract. So that's it for Openfort dashboard. Next, it's time to set up our Unity Gaming Services backend project. So if you go to the downloaded sample under UGS backend, you're going to find this solution right here. So I use Rider, but open it with your preferred IDE, and you will find the project like this. As you'll see, I have split this into different classes. For example, players module is going to take care of creating an Openfort player, as you see right here. Also, we're going to get the player NFT inventory. So all these are using Openfort C# SDK methods right here to create the Openfort player, and also to get the player NFT inventory. So also it's good to know that this is using, if we go to Nugget and Nugget packages, we'll see that we're using the Openfort C# SDK added from Nugget. You don't need to do this, it's already imported. And also we're using Cloud Code Core and Cloud Code APIs. So this is because, as you see, we have all these functions marked as a Cloud Code function, because when we deploy this to our Unity Gaming Services project, we're going to be able to call these functions from Unity. Also, we have a minting module which will take care of the minting of the NFT. Again, it uses Openfort transactions intent create to create the ETH transaction. And yeah, then we have a singleton module, which is just saving the important information, in this case the player response and the account response, from when we create the Openfort player. So this is accessible from all the other classes. So now that we are on the singleton module, it's very important that we need to fill our these variables right here. So go to Openfort dashboard, and you would need to add your API key, the secret key. So add it here, and also the contract API ID. You copy it, and also the policy ID. So you can paste it right here, save this, and with this we have the first step of the setup. All right, so now it's time to build this solution, and I'm using Rider for this, but if you're using another IDE like Visual Studio, you can go to this link right here, package code, and you will find instructions, for example, Visual Studio. So you'll see it's very easy. For example, in Rider, we will need to add a new configuration, and you would click here, but I already have one, so make sure it looks like this. It's very important that it targets Linux x64, and also make sure that you enable this ready to run option. Then you would click on apply and then OK. So we can click on build. This is going to be fast, and we can run the configuration. So after some seconds, we will have built the solution. So if we go to the sample project under UGS backend, Cloud Code modules, bin, release, Linux, and publish, we will find the files that we need to zip. We need to zip this before we deploy it to Unity Gaming Services cloud dashboard. So to do this, in Windows, I can select everything, and I'm going to zip it, and I'm going to name it Cloud Code Modules, and I'm going to change the extension to CCM. So I'm doing this in the Explorer, but you can do this if you're using a Mac. Maybe you can do this through command, through the zip command. But make sure we have zipped all this into one file that it's named cloudcodemodules.ccm. All right, so now it's time to go to the Unity Cloud dashboard in order to prepare it before deploying the Cloud Code modules to it. So go to cloud.unity.com and you'll need the Unity ID and an organization as set in the prerequisites. And first of all, we will need to create a new project. I already have one, but let's create a new one from scratch. I'm going to call this UGS tutorial. Let's hit on create. And we will need the project ID later. And also very important, we'll need to go to administration, service, accounts, and I already have a service account, but also let's create a new one from scratch. UGS tutorial account, hit on create. And very important, we'll need to add a key. And as always, remember, copy this. I'm going to copy this key in my notes, service account, secret key. And of course, this is a secret key. I'm going to delete this account later and also don't show it to anyone. The key ID will be accessible from here, so that's okay. And finally, very important, we need to add project roles. So I'm going to add project roles for UGS tutorial. And let's start by adding some admin roles. I'm going to be adding player resource policy editor, also project resource, I think, and Unity environments admin. Okay, make sure these are selected. And I think also on live ops, we will need to add leaderboards admin, also cloud code editor, and I think I need to add cloud code script publisher also. And triggers, I need to add triggers configuration editor. And I think we're good with this 4. So make sure you select the same. So you have roles for admin and live ops and choose save. Okay, so with the Cloud Unity dashboard setup, it's time to deploy. So let's go to our Cloud Modules build and let's open the terminal from here and go to README, and we're gonna be following these steps right here. So first of all, we need to install the CLI, the UGS CLI. I'm gonna use npm, so I'm gonna install it globally. Meanwhile, this is installing. Perfect. We're gonna need to log in to UGS. So let's type UGS login. And here we will need our service account key ID. So go to dashboard, service account. We're gonna copy the key ID. I'm gonna paste it here. And the secret key that we carefully copied, and I'm gonna paste it also here. Perfect. So now we have to config the project. So we can go to also the official documentation, and let's copy this comment right here. And we're gonna need to add the project ID. So again, in Cloud Dashboard Projects, UGS tutorial, I'm gonna copy the project ID, paste it here. Perfect. And finally, I would also need to set up the environment name. So copy this command, go back to Cloud Dashboard, and under environments, we see that our automatically a new production environment is deployed when we create a project. So just type production here. Great. So I think this is all for setup, and now we can just choose UGS deploy, and we want to deploy our CCM file. So let's hit on deploy, and if everything is good and set up, the deployment should be successful. So as we see, that's great, successfully deployed, created, and we can check that everything worked by going to projects, our UGS tutorial. We can go to Cloud Code. If you don't have it here, you can find it in the shortcuts. Cloud Code, modules, and for our project, here we have our Cloud Code modules. Perfect. So finally, it's time to go to Unity and see what's happening under the hood. So how we call these Cloud Code modules in our Unity Gaming Services dashboard. And you'll see it's very simple. So first of all, it's important to note that to do this, we need to add, we don't need to add because this is added in the project, but the sample uses some important packages like Cloud Code package, also Cloud Safe, and also Authentication. I think it's here. So this is what's used to authenticate to Unity Gaming Services. So let's start by the authentication. So here we are on the main scene, and under controllers, auth controller, we can open this and see that when we click the sign in button, we first initialize the services, the Unity services, and then through authentication service, we sign in anonymously. So note that we're using all these Unity services right here. And also we set up auth events to get when the authentication is successful or not. So in case it's successful, and this is where the magic happens, here is where we call the modules in our backend using Cloud Service, Cloud Code Service, and Cloud Module Endpoint Asynchronous. This is very important. This is where we call the Create Openfort player. So if we go to our modules, you'll see that in the player modules, we have this function right here. So this is what we're doing. We're calling this function, and you see that it needs the player name as a parameter. Don't worry about these parameters as these are passed automatically. So we need to pass the player name, and then we create the Openfort player. And also check in mind that this is returning a player response, which is an Openfort C# model. And because we have Openfort C# in the backend and Openfort Unity SDK in the client, we can deserialize and pass this, and deserialize these models in a nice way. So as you see, I'm expecting this player response here. And as you see, I'm passing the player name as a parameter, and I want to pass basically the authentication service player ID, the Unity player ID that I just signed in. And this is this is what I'm using for the Openfort player name. And then I get the Openfort player, and just finally I invoke an event called auth success. Great, so now it's time to go to Unity and see if everything is working. So first of all, we need to go to build settings and player settings and go to services, and we will need to link this Unity client to our Unity Gaming Services project. So select your organization, select your project, in my case UGS tutorial, and click on link to cloud project. Perfect. So now let's hit play and see what happens. Click on sign in. We just logged in with Unity Authentication Services. This is the ID of the player. Also, we just created an Openfort player. We have this ID here. And we checked if the player has some NFTs. So we checked the inventory, and of course it has no NFTs yet. So now let's see what happened in the backend. So go to Unity Cloud, and if you don't have player management, you can find it here. So let's refresh this. And we see we have a new player. And if we go to the tab Cloud Save, we'll see that we have Openfort account ID and Openfort player ID with the Openfort player ID here. So if we go to the Openfort dashboard, then we go to players and we get this new player. We see, yeah, that this is the one. As you see, this is the ID, and we saved the ID here. So this happens on Cloud Code modules when the Openfort player is created. Finally, we use Cloud Save to save the Openfort player ID and the Openfort account ID to the Unity Gaming Services player. So that's how we link it. And that's this is how everything works. So we can continue, and we can just choose Mint, and well, we'll see that this happens all frictionlessly. And yeah, of course, the minting takes a little while. No problem for this exception because this is a timeout, but then we still get the transaction completed. This is the ID. And finally, we get the NFT here. This is the representation of our NFT. So if we go to Openfort dashboard, we'll see that this player, we can refresh it. It has a new mint NFT transaction, successful. That's great. As you see, check out this transaction ID. If we go to Unity, you'll see that is this one. Amazing. And let's see how this happens in the code. So first of all, here in controllers, we can go to minting controller. And mint, when we click the button, we call mint NFT, which calls mint NFT in the backend. And if we go to the backend, in the minting module, we'll see that we have the mint NFT here, which basically creates a transaction request, and then we get the transaction ID back. So that's what we did. But one nice thing about this is that we use this send player message. And this is, so this is not waiting for the asynchronous call to go back to Unity. Instead, because we do this because normally minting a new NFT takes a little while, so maybe more than 10 seconds. So that's the timeout that Unity Gaming Services can have. So to avoid that, instead of waiting for this task to finish in Unity, we just send a message. And this is a function of Unity Gaming Services called Unity Push Messages. And as you see, we send the message that the transaction is done, sending the ID. And if you go to the Unity code, we'll see that in the minting controller, we have a function that is called subscribe to player messages, and basically it's subscribing to this cloud event. And when we get the message, when we receive the message, we then make sure that we get the transaction ID, and finally we get the player NFT inventory, and this is what instantiates the the NFT representation. So as you see, all these, it's also very well designed, because both backend and client use Openfort C# SDK, so we can deserialize. Well, we don't even need to deserialize responses, because we have the models in the backend and in the client. And also one last thing to mention is that the naming of the modules that we deployed to UGS is important. As you remember, we named it Cloud Code Modules, and in UGS it's named like this, Cloud Code Modules. So in Unity, when we call the Cloud Code Module functions, as we see, for example, in creating Openfort Player, we use, we have this variable set up right here in base controller, which is Cloud Code Modules. So make sure, if you have deployed another name, to have this name set right here. So yeah, this is it for this integration. We're gonna be doing more, and yeah, see you on the next one. Bye bye.